So we got an opportunity to head out and watch a little bit more LSU football practice today. Got to watch for about an hour. They've continued to move us around. I know that y'all don't care about this as much, but just for some perspective as I go into practice, like for 10 years, when I was watching practice, we would go in and we would walk the fence that gave us access to two fields, and you could pretty much see just about everything. Then this past year, they built the new facility with the new lounge, and there's a balcony up there, so they put us up there. And while you are a little bit far away, and they do have a bunch of players that have their jerseys rolled up, like you can see kind of everything. Well, today, and as of I think last week when I wasn't out there, we were downfield level, but kind of pinned in. It's not a great viewing vantage point. Like there's a lot you can't see. I can tell you everything the offensive line did today because they're 12 yards away. The DBs, 75 yards away on two fields over. That's tough sell. The entire defense was a field and a half over today. So it's not the best vantage point. I know that you don't have any violins out there singing the saddest song for me, but that's a perspective of what we're looking at here. So I did a lot of big picture observing today as opposed to kind of like individual things or rotations, that kind of stuff. And so I think of significance to start were two guys that returned to practice. Colin Hurley was a participant with the quarterbacks. He was able to do some one-on-one stuff, was able to throw the ball a good bit. That was great to see. You know that Colin Hurley had that single car accident back in January. He was found unresponsive and returned to Jacksonville to recover. He rejoined the team at the end of last week, was in street clothes at the open practice on Saturday. He had a helmet on today, was going through practice. That's great to see for him, certainly. Jacobian Guillory, we saw him doing some things last week, working out with the team. He had the pads on today, and he was participating today. Now, I saw him do more as a dummy offensive lineman, catching the defensive lineman in some pass rush things, as opposed to going full speed. But, he didn't have a no-contact jersey on. He was out there, and he was participating. I wouldn't call him a full participant, but I would say that he was out there practicing, and that's a great thing to see as well. He's 7 months removed from that Achilles injury. I think he's a big piece to what LSU needs on defense in the 2025 season. I think there's a high upside for Ahmad Bro. I think there's a high upside for Dominic McKinley. I think there's a high floor for Jacobian Guillory to come in and be a guy that gives you some veteran presence, some experience at defensive tackle, and just gives you a ton of strength and a wide load to try to move out of the way. So great to see all of those developments over the course of the last couple of days. Another guy that I don't think we've talked about a lot in this spring period has been Nic Anderson. I was a little bit surprised that when they started spring that he was not working with the ones and twos, that he was really, really, really being eased in to the workouts. I know that he missed all of 2024 at Oklahoma, save one game. And it's an injury that just kind of lingered. And we talked to an Oklahoma beat writer on the air, and the Oklahoma beat writer said, yeah, they thought it was kind of a hip, and they said it was a quad, and he just never healed. He never got back out there. And it was a bit of a mystery to the Oklahoma beat writers, and I think that's reasonable. A lot of coaches hide medical information, but what was he going to be like, 3 months later after he transferred coming into LSU? And he wasn't all that much of a participant. But as spring practice has gone on, he's participated more. He took the non-contact jersey off, and today he was running around with just a big wrap on his quad hamstring area. And I'm not even sure what the injury is, but he had a big wrap on. But he was going through the drills. He was participating. He got a little bit gimpy at one point, but I think that was just one rep that he tweaked something, and it wasn't necessarily serious at all. But he's been out there, and Brian Kelly was asked today about Nic Anderson and kind of what his progression has been in his first spring in Baton Rouge.
I think he was a little slowed by an injury that was lingering. We just wanted to be patient with him. Nick's a smart kid. He knows his body. He's not a guy that you have to push and say, hey, get out there. When he's ready, he's going to go compete. I think he just has a maturity about him that you don't have to worry about. And as he's gotten healthy, you can see the kind of presence that he has. He's big, he's physical, he's athletic. I'm excited about him. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to win some key one-on-one matchups for us with his physicality, in particular some of those one-on-one key third down matchups that you need. So it's nice to see him rounding into form as we get late here into spring practice.
I think Nic Anderson gives LSU something they don't otherwise have. And I said the exact same thing with Chris Hilton, and I mean it. I think Chris Hilton is an elite straight-line speed guy who's got a chance to emerge as a real potent threat in this LSU offense, but he's 6'1". I think that Aaron Anderson and Xavier Thomas are electric playmakers with the ball in their hands. We've seen Xavier Thomas working out of the backfield a good bit. Aaron Anderson looks healthy, and he looks really, really quick. That's awesome. I think Barian Brown has elite straight-line speed and huge playmaking ability. But none of those guys is 6'3" and has the physical presence that Nic Anderson does. And you heard Brian Kelly allude to that. And I think Nic Anderson being healthy adds a dimension to the LSU offense. It creates a matchup on the field that no one else creates in this LSU huddle. And so I think it's important that he's ready to go in the fall. I don't think it's important that he's ready to go in the spring. So the fact that he has not been a full go for this entire 5-week span is not massively concerning. Now, you pair that with the fact that it did linger all the way from September through Christmas, and you realize that you're knocking on the door of 10 months where he hasn't been a fully functional football player. There's something to that being concerning, but the fact that he's out there and is going through some workouts, is getting some work in, is showing the coaches some of what he can do, I think is certainly a step in the right direction. Just got to see what the summer months hold. I thought the play of the day for LSU today in the limited 11-on-11 that we got to see, they were doing a lot of work in the running game, and then they ran a play that involved it was really slow developing. There was a play action element of Garrett Nussmeier in the backfield. He drops back, and Chris Hilton had gone from being lined up on the right side of the offensive formation, and he had run an over route all the way to the left pylon, so all the way across the field. And Garrett Nussmeier did a play action fake, lobbed it over the top, and Hilton made just a gorgeous over-the-shoulder catch for what would have been about a 35-yard gain. Now, I'll tell you, we always watch those catches in the game that get reviewed in slow motion where they over-the-shoulder it and they dive to the ground, and sometimes the tip of the ball hits the ground. We only got to see this. It's practice. They don't have any cameras out there that we're looking at. We get no slow motion. But it was one of those where I saw it and I went, that one probably gets reviewed, and I don't know if he caught it or not. It's way too fast for me to tell. Help the officials. But I think he caught it. Either way, the official said he caught it. It was a great play design. It was great execution. It was a great throw. It was an athletic catch. It all looked really good. If it would have been called back, we'll worry about that at another day. But I thought that was a really good play. And then, as we've talked about a lot and just mentioned previously, there was a big play in the run game where LSU got the ball to Xavier Thomas on a bit of a counter look, and he was cutted back the other way in a little misdirection, and he busted it. And it was going to be, I think, a pretty big play. That's going to be in LSU's offense. You are right to feel a little bit concerned about LSU's running back depth when you look out there, and Caden Durham's rolled his ankle, so he's in a boot, and Caleb Jackson is your starter, and Harlem Berry is second, and JT Lindsey hasn't enrolled yet, and Trey Holly is not with the team. So the depth at running back is very, very short. Now, you very much assume that Caden Durham is going to return. He's going to be your lead back, and you know that JT Lindsey's going to enroll, and we'll see what happens with Trey Holly. I don't know. But you're going to get some depth back, but I still think that Xavier Thomas is going to be involved in LSU's running game in a limited capacity. He's not going to be a featured guy. They're not going to give him 8 carries a game. But I think that that's in there, and it was a big play. And I just I noticed Harlem Berry today, just really looking fluid, running the football. They did a lot of work in the running game, as they've done really every day when we're out there. And I've enjoyed watching Harlem Berry just kind of show his natural running ability, his vision, his quickness, his one cut and go. There's just a lot to like about Harlem Berry, and certainly Brian Kelly talked about that on Saturday's open practice when he met with the media and raved about his former number one back in the country. So that's a look at LSU spring practice today. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.